Hi, everybody. It's Eric Murray from the sugarhuddle.com. Well, it was tight in the first half with the Texans and the Dolphins, but Houston proved that again. You can't typically win with field goals because they, of course, scored a whole bunch of touchdowns in the second half. Deshaun Watson had his second career 5 touchdown pass game. He had 4 in the second half alone. He only had 4 incompletions the entire game, including just 1 in the second half. Deshaun Watson was amazing. He almost had a perfect rating. 158.3 is a perfect rating. He had a 156. He certainly had a hell of a game. He kind of got off to an okay start. He was like 7 of 10 for 74 yards at the half. In the second half, he just was really unbelievable. And big part of it, too, was, Miami's defense is just so incompetent right now. They had, can't even say, at least 3 or 4 busted coverage plays, including 2 touchdown passes. Will Fuller, he had a skinny post, wide open, nobody around. He was able to walk in for a long touchdown. Then DeAndre Hopkins later on, same situation, other side of the field. Miami's defense right now is just horrible. Last week against to be fair, rising Detroit Lions running game. Remember, the game was in Miami too. They gave up 248 rushing yards. This week it wasn't 248, but Lamar Miller had 133 rushing, a second straight 100-yard game. And, really the thing is, watching the game, there were a number of times where basically, Miller had real big holes to go through against his former team, hometown team. And then other times where there was a few missed tackles. So all 3 levels of the defense, Miami just isn't really executing at all right now. And the problem is when you don't have a franchise quarterback, your offense is kind of inconsistent. It's like, they're not finishing drives. They had some really good drives throughout the first half of this game, and they ended up with 10 points at half, and they continue to settle for field goals in the second half. And again, you're not going to win with that. So, well-deserved win for Houston. Now 5 in a row for them. All of a sudden, they're a big contender in the AFC, and again, they've been winning ugly. They have a number of injuries, but I thought this was, as impressive of a game as they've played all year long. And you look at the rest of the AFC South, Jaguars, they could easily lose again this weekend playing the Eagles. Titans, they're a team that doesn't have a whole lot of offense, and another team dealing with a whole lot of injuries. And, then the Colts, believe it or not, they're still hanging around at 2-5, and they're playing the Raiders this weekend. So they're going to have a chance to quickly possibly get into a 3-way tie for second place possibly. But at the end of the day, I think what you're seeing right now with Houston really kind of simple in certain ways, in the sense that Deshaun Watson tore his ACL last season, and we've seen so many of these quarterbacks, that first year back, they really struggle. They have a lot of adjustments that they need to make, and a lot of it really is the fact that, the quarterbacks, when they're coming back from an ACL, they're kind of skittish. They not that they're afraid, but you saw it with Carson Palmer, and even Tom Brady when he came back from his ACL, he was a little bit off initially, and then he quickly got it, back into his usual form. And so that was something that concerned me with Watson, with Carson Wentz, and Ryan Tannehill. And of course, Ryan Tannehill dealing with other ailments now with his shoulder injury. And then, Wentz, he's played real well, but obviously the Eagles defense hasn't, and the running game is not there. But I think with Watson, he had no offensive line for the first several weeks. All of a sudden, this offensive line is creating holes in the running game. They're doing a really good job blocking now up front. They're really starting to mesh real well. Watson wasn't sacked at all in this game. I want to say last week against Jacksonville, he was only sacked maybe a couple times, maybe even only once. So this offensive line, and again, they've dealt with injuries just like everywhere else in this team. They're starting to come together. Defensively, J.J. Watt definitely in line to be comeback player of the year. 8 sacks already through 8 games, and he was completely terrorizing Jawan James, right tackle for the Dolphins, that entire first half. I mean, Jawan James just had no answers, got called for a holding penalty or two, and J.J. Watt was still able to, get pretty close to sacking Osweiler more than once. So he's clearly hasn't missed a beat. Injuries are still going to be a big issue for this team going forward, like I mentioned, because, not only have you had to kind of have a musical chairs offensive line, your receivers are constantly getting banged up. Will Fuller had a great game, 124 yards on 5 catches and a touchdown. He still ended up getting banged up towards the end in this game once again. Looked like he kind of banged up his knee. We'll see, what happens with that. But, defensively, you've had so many defensive backs hurt. Even, front seven, you've kind of had some guys that got banged up. Jadeveon Clowney, along with Jonathan Joseph, they both got banged up in this one. So obviously that's going to be a concern going forward. And again, the Texans, wins are wins in the NFL, but they have played a lot of ugly football. And this was really, I thought, in this 5-game stretch, their most impressive outing to this point. So, Houston, got to give them a lot of credit. Looked really good in this one. And, going forward, especially with the remaining divisional games, they've got a pretty good shot at winning this division now. And they're starting to look like the team a lot of people thought they would be before the season. Now, as far as the Dolphins are concerned, I think the big thing is, like I said, defense has gotten worse and worse. Running game is kind of hit or miss. They were really good in the first half in this one. They had like 72 yards, and they only had 44 after that. And, I think a big thing, too, is, you've got Tannehill, you've got Osweiler, so you don't got a quarterback, and that's basically been Miami in a nutshell since Dan Marino retired, after the 99 season. Since the new millennium, you just haven't had a quarterback. So Miami's only going to go as far as their quarterback takes them, and, they're 3-5 football team. They got the Jets next week. They're pretty close to being eliminated from the playoffs, and, they're not going to, Adam Gase said he's not going to fire his defense coordinator, Matt Burke, but, we'll see how that works out. He might get fired after next week. We'll see. But yeah, this defense, so many busted coverages, there's some costly penalties. And then Adam Gase himself, really, really good coach, but he also dropped the ball in this game. For anybody who watched the game, early on, Miami, they had a 4th and 1 on their opening drive. I think it was around the 20-something yard line. But anyways, they had a 4th and 1. It was a very, very short one. And Osweiler, 6'8", he could have easily snuck it for a first down. Instead, they try to go under center and drop back to pass. And he tries to throw a short pass to Frank Gore. And he's hit right on the spot, incomplete pass. And it should have been a pass interference, but it wasn't called. And then, later on, Gase, they were down, it was 35-20. There's inside of 12 minutes, about 11 and a half minutes left. They decided to kick a field goal. And at this point, their defense, couldn't stop a heart attack. They couldn't stop anything. And so anyways, he kicks a field goal to make a 12-point game. And you're like, what are you doing there? That's not going to get you anything. Then right after that, he tries to do a surprise onside kick, which, of course, Houston recovers. So, Adam Gase, when your team's struggling, sometimes as a coach you get desperate, but, he can't keep doing that going forward. But anyways, at any rate, Miami, clearly, like the rest of the AFC East outside New England, they're playing for second place in that division. The question is, will 9-7 get you in the playoffs again this year in the AFC like it did last year for these wild card teams? Could very much be the case. Right now, I don't think Miami's going to get to 9-7. Just way too many holes, way too many flaws with this football team, even if they beat the Jets next week. So, anyways, please go to sugarhuddle.com and please subscribe to my YouTube channel and also like my Facebook page, which is also the Sugar Huddle. Thank you.